what I hope to show you today is that we have a process where we really try to engage and align key stakeholders to unleash their team's talents on what matters most. This man's name is John Maxwell. Some of you may or may not have heard of him. He's an author and a speaker. He's written 135 books or something, which is an amazing amount. I hate to admit, I don't know that I've read 135 books in my adult life, but he's very prolific. One of his best known quotes is this one: everything rises and falls on leadership. And he talks about the importance of leadership to organizations, to enterprises, to projects, to any endeavor, the critical role that leadership plays in moving something forward or backward. With so many changes in our industry, so many challenges, so many opportunities that are in front of us, I think it's critical for leaders to do three things, in my opinion. One is to define a compelling purpose for their organization. Why are we here? What is our mission? What are we trying to achieve? How will we know when we're successful? The second thing is to identify the most important strategies for success. And then third, unleashing the talents of your team on what matters most. No one person can do it all themselves. You're going to need a team to accomplish it. So how you engage your stakeholders, I'm going to use that term. It can vary, by the client, but at least your governing board and key staff members, how you engage those people to help develop the strategic plan, identify those important priorities, and then really get their active buy-in and participation in executing. And I know I'm biased, but I think these three things are all the essential outcomes of effective strategic planning and things that I aim to in everything I do. Before I joined Hometown Connections, I worked for a joint action agency for 35 years. During my time there, I did strategic planning. It wasn't my sole job, but whenever that agency did strategic planning, I was always heavily involved in that. I've done strategic planning in different ways over the decades. Some things I liked, some things didn't work as much, but it really did help me understand what I think can make for a more effective strategic planning process. Now, I know not everybody is a fan of strategic planning, and that may be because many of us have been through a strategic plan that we didn't think was so hot. We did a survey of people that were attending the pre-conference workshop at the APPA National Conference that I told you about. And we asked them a number of questions to kind of get feedback going into the session. And surprisingly, many of the people attending the session had done a strategic plan before. When I asked people to rate the effectiveness of developing the plan, 60% thought that their process was effective, but then 40 didn't. And then when we asked how effective was the implementation of your plan, 50% said it was effective. So there's room to improve in both of those areas. And I truly do believe we probably have this, at least I have this feeling that a lot of people assume strategic planning is an outside facilitator shows up to facilitate a spontaneous conversation at this workshop. And you spend a lot of time and you wonder if you accomplish anything. And do you really get to strategic decisions or not? And I've really come to believe that we can do better than just showing up and facilitating an old style strategic planning workshop. So this is kind of the 4-phase process that I use. The 4 phases are brainstorming, ranking, shortlisting, and deciding. It's not rocket science, right? It's much harder than it. No, it's not. And this is kind of what I do in each of these phases. So first of all, engaging and aligning stakeholders and developing the plan is an important part of what we're doing here. And I hope you see some of that in these steps. The first step is brainstorming. Generally, and I also got to say here that, this is a standard process, I guess, but each client can be and is different, and we can modify the process to suit a particular client. But oftentimes we start out with asking the staff to brainstorm potential goals and strategies. And I like to do brainstorming in a two-step process. The first step is individual brainstorming, which we do in an online survey. I think that's more effective. I think brainstorming individually first takes out some of the negative group dynamics that maybe we've all experienced, at one point in our career when the boss gets everybody in the room and says, all right, give me a good idea about how to do X, Y, or Z. And everybody goes silent, as they watch and see who's going to be the first one to suggest an idea, and then see how that idea goes over with the boss, right? Or colleagues in the group. I haven't loved that process in the past, so I do two steps. First, we do this online survey where individuals brainstorm ideas. We collect those anonymously. We don't report any names associated with them. But you can't just stop there, because there is an aspect of group dynamics that can make ideas better. So the second step is to get the group together, show them the brainstorm list, and then the team can help clarify, expand, condense, or refine things. What we come out with at the end of that project is a brainstorm list, a long list of potential goals and strategies. And then we feed that into the ranking phase. In the ranking phase, usually we ask the governing board and the staff to participate. There's several objectives in this online ranking survey. Primarily, we're seeking to ask them to rank the relative importance of the various goals and the strategies. And we break out that information by the responses from the governing board and the responses from the staff. That's always a very interesting process. The governing board is always interested in seeing how the staff feels, and likewise, the staff likes to hear what the board is. But that's those rankings, they're not binding in any way. It's not leading or limiting. It's just a place to start the conversation, to try to be an efficient way of getting the consensus of the group of how they feel about the relative importance of the potential goals and strategies. So we come out of that phase with a report on the survey results, and that gets sent to the group. And we move to phase 3, which is shortlisting, where I work with the staff to create generally PowerPoint presentation that the staff will present at the strategic planning workshop. And I ask, we take each goal and we assign it to a subject matter expert for the staff and say, taking the feedback that you got from the brainstorming and the ranking phase and filtering it through your own subject matter expertise, come up with a recommendation for the board on what you think are the most important strategies to achieve that particular goal. So I work with them to develop that PowerPoint presentation. We put it into all into a packet, and we send that out prior to moving to stage 4, which is the deciding phase, which is the workshop itself. Where at the workshop, the staff presents those presentations to kick off questions and discussion, and then the board moves into making decisions on the mission, vision, values, goals, and strategies. So this entire process, as you can see at the bottom of this slide, typically takes about 12 weeks, I would say, on average. Sometimes a little longer for clients if they have other things, that are occurring in the middle of that process, but that's kind of the typical time. So what are the benefits of using a process like this? I always do a debrief with clients after the project to see what went well and what could be done differently. And I think here are 3 things that I hear most frequently. The first benefit is preparation. We set the stage for success with a good work plan. We start the project with a detailed map. These are the action items we're going to do, 20-some steps from initiation all the way through decision making. So we set the stage with a good work plan and advanced preparation going into the workshop. As a staff member for a utility, I really did not like going into a work where everything was spontaneous, because I don't think that makes for the best decisions. There really is not time to think through and vet something. Going through a more four-phase process, I always find these goals and strategies evolve over time and they get better in that process. And things you thought were good at the beginning, you think about it a little more, your staff discusses it a little bit more, and you change it, before it gets approved. So the preparation is extremely important. The second big benefit I hear about is the engagement. I know engagement can be scary to people, how you're going to engage your board and your staff, and how is that going to work? Isn't that going to be messy? And aren't people going to have different opinions? And aren't we going to have to negotiate or come up with a consensus? Well, yes. But if you want to engage people in the plan, if you want them to own it themselves, to buy into it, there's no shortcut for that process. I don't think it's effective when you have these top-down strategic plans where somebody else develops it and then it gets passed down to the staff. And then the management wonders why the staff doesn't really seem to own or care about it or know it or remember it, because they didn't feel like they had any buy-in or access to help create that plan. So the engagement of stakeholders creates valuable input and buy-in to the process. And then the third benefit I hear about is the decision-making itself, so that we go into the workshop with well-developed material, which makes for a much more efficient and effective decision. I had a client just earlier this year. At the conclusion of the workshop, the governing board member came up to me and he said, "That was the least painful strategic planning process I've ever been through." And I've been through a lot. And to me, that said a lot about how we generally feel about strategic planning and what I hope to accomplish from this. I think once we go through those 4 steps and people come along with us for that ride, by the time we get to the decision-making, it seems to be much more efficient and effective and not quite as arduous as maybe we've experienced in the past. So I know there are great local facilitators in communities all around the country, and I'm biased here, but I do think there is some value in having a facilitator that has expertise in our particular industry. And I've heard that from clients as well. So we have experience working with municipal utilities and joint action agencies. So we understand the complexities of our industry, and that can help us as we facilitate the conversations. We also have a plan, I think, that we have shown works with utilities of all sizes. It has worked for large organizations, large joint action agencies with many, many members. And we've also been successful working for individual utilities. The bottom logo here, you probably can't see, is the city of Winter Park, Florida, who we're doing right now. They're an individual electric utility, electric only, and they're less than 100 megawatts. So I'll conclude where I began, that I think we all should recognize as leaders in this room that everything rises and falls on the role we play in working with our teams to achieve success. So I wish you all the best as you help your organizations rise.
This has been a production of Hometown Connections. Thank you for watching.